Conduct for yourself a little experiment. Ask anybody who's voluntarily wearing the ritualistic shame muzzle 2 simple questions. Number 1, why didn't you wear it for all the deadly diseases in the past? H1N1, bird flu, swine flu, avian flu, SARS, MERS, tuberculosis. Do you not realize what the case fatality rate for SARS was? 9%. MERS, 10%. Tuberculosis, which is still with us today, 15% case fatality rate. The convids isn't even close to that in case fatality rates. Number 2, ask them, how long do you anticipate you're going to be wearing this ritualistic shame muzzle? They won't be able to answer either question. Do you know why? Because they no longer have the capacity to think for themselves. Somebody else is doing their thinking for them. Do not adjust your screen. I am standing here in the dark with my survival flashlight. So if the power grid goes down or just the electricity goes out for a while during that thunderstorm, you have plenty of lumens to light your way. And with multi-flashing modes, including emergency lights, not to mention an emergency hammer and a seatbelt cutter, it's got everything a survival flashlight should have. That was corny. Don't put that in there. It's powered by the sun. It's got a cool little compass. This thing even has a frickin' lighter. And if your battery's low on your cell phone, this baby will charge it up. The link for your survival flashlight is in the description below.
So I'm getting my daily dose of big pharma industrial complex propaganda last night, and this hits the screen from the Counterfeit News Network. The video's title is What Dying Convid 1984 Patients Told Nurse Stuns Camerota. It's got over 604,000 views in a couple hours, and I figured I hadn't been sufficiently scared into compliance today, and so I decided to tune in, wondering what in the world is left in 2020 that's going to stun Allison Camerota from CNN. So I click play. And the first thing I see on the screen is Cerveza Bug Plandemic with ominous music playing in the background. Let's take a look at this little gem of corporate misinformation.
The worst place in the country for coronavirus this morning is South Dakota. It's experiencing record cases, deaths, and hospital levels. The positivity rate there is the highest in the nation at almost 60%.
Now, as she says that, a euphemistic chyron appears at the bottom of my screen saying, South Dakota bucks safety precautions as cases surge. Let's fix that. South Dakota bucks tyranny, presenting itself as safety as rigged case counts from, in the words of Elon Musk's recent tweet, bogus test results surge. On the right-hand side, CNN wants to continue to remind the world that they've declared Biden the winner and that the Johns Hopkins University fear porn death map numbers are still in play.
The state has taken a hands-off approach to public health protocols recommended by the CDC. Back in July, President Trump hosted an Independence Day celebration, as you can see on your screen. This was in a packed amphitheater at Mount Rushmore. A month later, nearly 500,000 bikers flooded into the town of Sturgis for an annual motorcycle rally.
And just a quick note here. Camerota fails to mention the mass gatherings of both Antifa and BLMers, and she fails to mention the massive crowds that took to the streets to celebrate what they continue to think is a Joe Biden victory.
South Dakota's Republican Governor Kristi Noem supported both events and refuses to issue public safety directives such as wearing masks. Here's what she said a couple of weeks ago at a Trump rally.
The only reason you know who I am today is because the liberals have been busy kicking me in the head for all the decisions I've made for my people in South Dakota. But let me tell you, my people are happy. They're happy because they're free.
I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like CNN doesn't like to see people happy and free. They seem to rather enjoy seeing people suffer under expert-recommended medical tyranny.
We invited Governor Noem to join us this morning, but she declined. But here to describe what she's seeing on the front lines in South Dakota is Jody Doring, She's a registered nurse who has called the coronavirus crisis in her state, quote, a horror movie that never ends. Nurse Doring, thank you so much for being here. When I read some of your tweets, my jaw dropped. You said that even now that the hospital is being overrun with COVID patients, they come in, they're horribly ill, they're gasping for breath, and yet they don't believe they have COVID?
And yet they don't believe they have COVID?
What Allison Camerota and her counterfeit news colleagues are really shocked about is that there are a lot of people out there waking up that don't believe their 24/7 propaganda campaigns anymore. She can't seem to understand how so many people are finally waking up to the fact that they've been hoodwinked for years by corporate media.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing to watch is that people are still looking for something else and they want a magic answer and they don't want to believe that COVID is real. And the reason I tweeted what I did is it wasn't one particular patient, it's just a culmination of so many people.
Here's my question. What happened to all the other sicknesses that people in the past have gone to the hospital for? Lung infections, pneumonia, bronchitis, the regular seasonal flu. Why is mainstream media pretend like none of that exists anymore in the COVID 1984 era?
And their last dying words are, this can't be happening, it's not real. And when they should be spending time FaceTiming their families, they're filled with anger and hatred. And it just made me really sad the other night. And I just can't believe that those are going to be their last thoughts and words.
Anger and hatred towards you?
I think it's just a belief that it's not real, and nursing happens to be on the receiving end of that. And that's okay. We can take that. That's what you're there for. It's just in the bigger picture when you try to reason with people of, can I call your family, your kids, your wife, your friend, your brother? And they say no, because I'm going to be fine. And you're watching their oxygen levels, maxed out on what we call vapotherm at 100%, and their oxygen level might be 75. That's not really that compatible with life, and we know where that's going to head.
At this point, there's so many questions that Camerota fails to ask here. What are the ages of the people that you're talking about? How many people are you talking about? Do they have comorbidities? And if so, how many does the average person have? Did they test positive? If so, what test did they use? Tell me what the percent accuracy level is on that test that you do use. If it was the RT-PCR test, are you aware of what the inventor of that test said about how you should not be using it? Are you aware of what the Charlie Delta Charlie Big Pharma Corporation said right here about the lack of isolation and zero availability of the cerveza bug that you're actually talking about? Now, you say these people perished. So my question is, what percentage of those people that didn't make it did you put on a ventilator? Did you know that under the CARES Act, hospitals stand to make $13,000 per cerveza bug individual and almost $40,000 if they're given ventilator treatment? Why is it that it looks like they want you to be drawn into the emotion of the tragedy of these reported situations? Check out some of these Twitter responses to the CNN segment featuring this nurse from South Dakota. Stanford-trained Dr. Eugene Gu, who has over 500,000 followers, responded, quote, "Bad-mouthing your own dying patients in exchange for some clout on CNN and on social media is really the last straw for me. This is so morally wrong and unacceptable, and also there is no evidence for any of this. What a rotten culture you're promoting that perverts medicine." This guy says, if they have to try this hard to convince you it's real, it probably isn't real.
How could it not make your own head explode? They're gasping for breath. Their oxygen levels are dropping. What do they think is wrong with them?
I think people look for anything. People want it to be influenza. They want it to be pneumonia. They want it to be, we've even had people say, well, I think maybe it might be lung cancer. Something so far-fetched. And the reality is, since day one, when COVID started in this area in March, you've kind of been able to say if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. Like, I hate to tell you.
Walks like a duck and talks like a duck? Right here is where a real journalist, for the sake of their viewing audience, would pull out the cat's own words. That the duck has never been isolated or verified, and that duck is not even available for viewing. So how do you know it's a duck if the duck has, according to the Cat Corporation, never been visualized in an isolated context? These are just some of the questions that she could have asked but didn't. And the question is, why?
That you have COVID, but that's what you have. Even after positive results come back, some people just don't believe it. Now, that's not everybody. We have a lot of patients who are very, very grateful for their care and very thankful for what you do. But unfortunately, that's not what I'm remembering right now. And as my nursing career, that's not what I want to be remembering for. I want to remember the saves and the happy situations. And what I was remembering chilling on the couch the other night with my dog was not that.
Of course not. I mean, of course not. And it's just so mind-blowing to think that they would rather have lung cancer. They'd rather a diagnosis of lung cancer than of coronavirus.
I'm sorry. In the middle of a story about all these people passing away, I seem to have missed what was funny here. Did you guys see anything funny?
And if we don't get some help from the public as far as mask wearing and social distancing, there's a thing on the internet right now that says, I'm not your first line of defense, I'm your last. And that actually is true in South Dakota, that by the time you get to me and the team that we work with, it might be too late for some. And that is heartbreaking because the reality is we're a small state. The town I live in has 650 people and we have 680 deaths right now. I mean, that's my entire town wiped off the map. We know these people, we go to school with them, church, grocery store. It's every small town story you've ever heard.
But just so I understand, Nurse Doring, you have more deaths than you have people in your town.
Yeah, in the state of South Dakota, I haven't looked in the last few hours. I think we had 683. Don't quote me on that. But the town I live in has 650 people. So when you put in perspective, and people listen to me talk about this for the last 9 months, that's every single person in our town gone.
CNN acts like they're so good at all this fact checking. I wonder why they didn't fact check this. If they had, and if they just used the mainstream media COVID 1984 tracker, they would see that Woonsocket, South Dakota, which is in Sanborn County, has a population of 674 people, and Sanborn County has a population of 2,429 people. If you just lightly reviewed this CONVIDS map, you'd see that Sanborn County records 7 new supposed cases a day and has recorded only 1 death due to CONVIDS since the beginning of the pandemic. Why doesn't Camerota report on that? Could it be because she cares more about propagating emotionalism and fear-mongering than facts? Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know. And don't forget to check out the description below where you'll see the links to all my alternative media pages. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.
While we have time and it still retains some of its perceived value, maybe it'd be a good idea to convert your worthless fiat into valuable, storable food. Don't be the one who waits till the food riots start happening. You don't want to be fighting panicking people in the store over that last jar of peanut butter. At Prepare with High Impact Flicks, you can get up to 3 air and watertight gasket-sealed ammo cans, each filled with a 4-week emergency supply. 7 food varieties, 2,000 calories a day, 284 servings, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and each meal comes in a resealable, heavy-duty 4-layered pouch. And it's got a 25-year shelf life. Every order of a 4-week supply gets you $100 off plus free shipping. Here's how simple it is to make. I'm going to cook up some Granny's home-style potato soup. People are going to think I'm a culinary hero. You open the pouch, boil 4.5 cups of water, stir the contents, simmer on low heat for 15 to 20 minutes, take it off the heat, then let it set for 2 to 3 minutes before you serve it up.
Man, this stuff's so good. People are going to think Granny stopped by and filled your kitchen with a whole bunch of love.
Well, if Granny does stop by, she's gonna fill your behind with a whole bunch of buckshot if you keep talking with your mouth full. Wipe your dang beard off. It's embarrassing. So maybe convert some of your worthless fiat into valuable food while you still can. Order now and get $100 off of up to 3 4-week emergency food supplies at preparewithhighimpactflix.com. The link is in the description.